welcome to Body in Balance Podcast. I am your host, Charlotte Johnson, the certified licensed physician assistant, sent here to kick some knowledge your way once a week for the purpose of educating, informing, and enlightening this audience concerning physical, spiritual, and emotional aspects of our bodies in relation to our Creator, the one, the only, the true and living God. Yes, yes, He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Let us give it up for Yahweh. Before we start on talking about hand washing, I want to alert people to the large recall of Fabuloso. It is a cleaning product which has been contaminated with a gram-negative bacteria called Pseudomonas. I feel it's important to let my audience know about this because it is a safety hazard for those that are wanting to try and clean your home or office. If you're wiping down surfaces such as countertops, floors, bathroom sinks, your refrigerator handle, the stove, the stove top, if you're using any of this to clean these objects, you're inadvertently spreading microbes all around your home. It's even worse if you're spraying it because now it's aerosolizing your home or office with these microbes that you think are smell good. No, they're not. As you breathe these particles in, you can infect your lungs, your sinuses, your eyes, and if you're using the cleaner without gloves, you can have this absorbed through your skin or in cuts that are on your hand. For those with robust immune systems, it's probably not that big of a deal. However, you'll get sick, a sinus infection, bronchitis, or something of the sort. That may be your problem. But in someone that is immunocompromised, i.e., a cancer patient, or a diabetic, a brittle diabetic, or someone that is HIV, or is a kidney transplant or lung transplant, just a transplant patient, you could have a lot of problems with this. The elderly or even young children under the age of 3 can suffer severe infections or even death. That's why I felt it was important to bring it to people's attention. Now we're going to move on. Today we're going to be discussing one of our first lines of defense that is against infectious disease that could attack our bodies through these microbes. We will be discussing 5 topics. The first one is the history of hand washing. Who knew? 2, the types of microbes that are out there. 3, sanitizing versus disinfecting. 4 are best defenses against microbes. And 5, finally, the importance of this protection. So we want to sanitize and disinfect objects along with washing our hands in order to cut down on the number of microbes that can be transferred one to another by handshakes or touching objects that others have touched when they have not washed their hands after rubbing their nose or coughing into their hand. Ew. History of hand washing. Now, I know most of you have heard the saying that cleanliness is next to godliness. While the exact phrase is not found in the Bible, the concept is clearly expressed or insinuated because of God's thoughts on sin and purification. There are clear cut links in the Bible to personal hygiene and purification that implicate protection in the way of ritualistic holiness by obedience to God's use of water for our bodies. Now, let's talk about the father of hand washing. His name is Ignace Semmelweis. He's a Hungarian doctor who's was working in the Vienna General Hospital between the years, I believe it was 1844 and 1848. Now, he noticed that when the doctors that were performing autopsies, that's dissecting dead bodies to find out why the people died, and they were delivering babies at the same time, they seem to have higher mortality rates for their mothers and babies in the maternity ward because of infections. Now, they compared the rate of death to the mothers that were with midwives or nurses who were doing the same care. The difference was that they practiced hand washing. So when he implemented hand washing with chlorinated lime, those doctors resisted. They did not want to wash their hands. Ew. But they did eventually start to cooperate to Dr. Semmelweis' wishes. And when they did, they noticed that there was a reduction in the mortality rates of their patients. Go figure. The rates were similar to what the midwives had in numbers for mortality. So it had reduced because they were practicing the way the midwives were. Unfortunately, they continued to resist and they did not want to wash their hands. Eventually, they resorted to their old ways and the numbers went back up. Hmm. Later, Florence Nightingale, a well known nurse to many, made the same discovery that during the Crimean War, she cared for wounded soldiers. She washed her hands between patients and giving care. Now, people began to adhere to her suggestion for a little while, and infections went down again. Go figure. They believed the reason they didn't want to do it is because they believed that the pungent odors of infection and death was the cause of the infections, not the hand washing. So they refused to wash their hands again and went back to the poor hygiene. It was not until the two gentlemen on the bottom that you see there on the slide, Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch, pushed the theory of microorganisms being the key cause of infection, and hand washing would be the major deterrent for great change in medicine and reducing infectious disease as a standard protocol. At this time, it is apparent that we are doing that in hospital settings, in office, doctors' offices. Doctors should be washing their hands. I will say this, if you go to a doctor and they come at you, if you didn't see them take a squirt of some hand sanitizer or go over to the sink and put some soap on their hands and wash them, I would politely say, would you mind washing your hands? I know that the infection rates for transfer are much lower when doctors wash their hands. Okay, so let's quickly go through the difference between sanitizing and disinfecting. Uh, Cleaning is just to remove germs, dirt, and impurities off a surface. So you could just take a wet rag and it has nothing on it and just wipe away dirt and germs or impurities off a surface just to kind of make it look clean. You're not sanitizing it though. Sanitizing is using a cleaner like a hand sanitizer that you see down in the corner. That's Purell. Everybody's familiar with Purell. Um, you can use the alcohol wipes. There's also the use of vinegar and citric or lemon. That tends to kill the number of germs at a safe level, either by killing them or by reducing their number. Now, this is not toxic to the skin like the ones on the lower part of the slide that I'm showing you. Disinfecting kills germs on surfaces or objects. So you can't really use that to uh, wipe your hands with. It's going to cause too much drying. It's going to cause skin to break and that kind of thing. It can also bring a toxic level to the body if you use it very often. A person would need to use gloves to keep this off your skin. Now, disinfectant tends to kill more than sanitizing would. All right, let's talk briefly about common types of microbes. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this because I think I'm going to do another whole uh, episode to talk about microbes and the types. So we're going to be talking about bacteria, viruses, and fungus. We're just going to touch on it right now. So common types of microbes, you can see pictures of them over on the slide that I have. Those types are bacteria. Their shapes will let you know what type they are. Now, that's important to providers because we need to know uh, whether it's a gram negative or gram positive. We need to know, is it aerobic versus anaerobic? All that makes the difference as to what type of antibiotic that we're going to need. Um, Anaerobic versus aerobic microbes or bacteria, that means that the organism needs oxygen or does not. If it needs oxygen, it's aerobic. If it does not, it's anaerobic. Microbes are also known to be viruses. So there's three. There's the bacteria, there's virus, and then there is fungus. Microbes that are viruses, they are not affected at all by antibiotics. This is why if you've had a cold for 2 days, you're coughing and you're just coughing clear stuff and you're blowing your nose with clear mucus, that's probably why they're not giving you an antibiotic. Now, when it becomes colored, then they will give it to you. Um, Reduction in numbers can be affected by an um, antibiotic, but not if it's a virus. Now, if they're on your hands, soap and water gets rid of or cuts down. It acts as a sanitizer. So it will reduce the number of microbes, the soap and water. Therefore, you want to do that, and we're going to talk about how we do it. There are also fungi or fungus, which brings ringworm uh, that can be on the hands. Those of you that work in gardens and around dirt and dig in the dirt and stuff like that, that you can pick up fungi from the dirt. Many of these microbes are there. Uh, there are some microbes, rather. Let me retract that. There are some microbes that are there on your hands and skin, and they're called normal body flora. Normal body flora. So if you ever see that on a lab report, if you're sneaking and looking into your, that's not sneaking, but I'm just joking, um, looking into your records and you say, uh, oh my God, I've got normal body flora. Oh, you're okay. You'll be all right. Uh, those are supposed to be there because they act as protectants against uh, fungus, high levels of fungus, and things like that. They help to bring balance to the prevention of any infection or overgrowth. So let me repeat and go over. There are three different types of organisms that we have on our skin that can be normal body flora. That is bacteria, fungus, and viruses. Now, the largest of these organisms is fungus. Those are larger and they can range from 20 to 25 centimeters. That's 8 to 10 inches. And they can go up to 25 to 30 centimeters or 10 to 12 inches. Bacteria is very small compared to a fungus. Bacteria is its largest size is going to be 0.25 by 2 micrometers. 0.25 by 2 micrometers. in diameter, or in length, it'll be zero point 0.5 by 5 micrometers in length. So it's no more than maybe this pen size, as you can see, just the tip of the pen. And that's when you're looking at it under a microscope, because you cannot see it without a microscope. You can't see bacteria with the naked eye. If you do, something's going on with you. Okay. Finally, viruses are the smallest of all the organisms that can wreak havoc in our lives. And we saw what a virus can do between the years of 2020 and 2023. But they range from 5 to 300 nanometers. That is very small. Hard to imagine that something so small could cause so many lives to be lost so quickly in such a short time as COVID-19 did. Okay, which is the best thing to kill microbes? This is what we're going to talk about. We're going to actually talk about hand washing. If you look at that slide, you can see the microbes all over the hand. If you're on my podcast and you're listening, you may want to get to my Facebook page or go onto my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see the slides and you'll see the bacteria on the hands. Soap and water, for whether it's warm or cold, for about 20 seconds of vigorous rubbing your hands together, going between the fingers and up to the wrist, covering the back of your hands and between. You want to do that. Now, why is she telling us how to wash our hands? Well, apparently it's needed, and especially to former my colleagues in medicine, according to what was going on with Semmelweis and his people, they needed to know. Wash your hands. Okay, you can use a 70% alcohol hand sanitizer without the soap and water. Anything less than the 70% is not strong enough to cause enough disruption to dislodge as many and sanitize your hand enough to get rid of microbes that could prevent and it could cause an infection. Be sure and read the labels of these off-brand hand sanitizers to make sure that they say they're 70%. Other more natural agents that you can use, as I discussed before, is citric and vinegar. You can use white vinegar to clean your hands. And I'll just give you a tip. I clean my vegetables off on the outside with white vinegar. I also clean, and I clean if I'm in a restaurant or something like that. I ask for hot water, a cup of hot water, and some lemons. I'll take and wash my hands with the lemon and um, the hot water. I put my utensils, take a lemon and slide it over my knife, and then I push it around in the hot water, and it sanitizes both the hands and your utensils. Hey, good people, we started this. We're going to talk about the protection, but we started this episode going into the history of hand washing in the medical field and how The doctors didn't want to wash their hands and that kind of thing. And I suggested to you that if you're in the doctor's office and you didn't actually see them wash their hands, you can politely ask a doctor to go ahead and put a squirt of some hand sanitizer on, or to go over and wash their hands in the sinks. Okay? Do that for 20 seconds. You don't have to tell them how long, but they can do that. But morbidity and mortality rates tend to be reduced with hand washing. And it became apparent, and now it's protocol for hospitals, clinics, medical offices, nursing homes. It should be even in child care centers. We saw how important it was in the history, and also how important it was during COVID 19. And not only was face mask important because of the aerosolization of the virus, but also the spread of it if you coughed into your hand, sneezed into your hand, or blew your nose. Okay? So, the things that I wanted you to pick up and I wanted you to see is one, all healthcare workers need to wash your hands. Two, all food workers need to wash their hands. And three, all child care workers need to be sure, and those working in skilled nursing units need to be sure and wash your hands. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip. Those of you that have the really long nails, make sure that you clean your hands daily, um, with a small, soft toothbrush that you want to clean. Let me show you where the nail tip is. So if it's above that, you want to go toward that bed, right around that bed, and just scrub a little bit. You mechanics and those gardeners, you want to make sure that you scrub and clean where your nails are, because it's very easy to get fungus under there, and it makes for thick, ugly nails. And so using a little bit of vinegar, for those of you that are gardeners, um, you may want to do that by the nail bed so that you can prevent fungal infections. That was a little bit of gee whiz information that you can keep. Hopefully, you have learned some things today and have some things that you can share with some people. If you like the information you've gotten, I want you to like and share. Let everybody know that Body and Balance is out here kicking some knowledge your way. May God bless you and enjoy that hand washing.